بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
So now the next thing we'll also see DHCP supported devices. Like mostly in the production networks, you will be using, you can use any device can do the job of a DHCP. Like you can use a Cisco router. Let's take an example. We have a Cisco router somewhere. Let's say, assume that this is a Cisco router. Now this router can act as a DHCP server and provide the IP address to the clients, like to smartphones, laptops, or any other devices connected in the network. So the routers can be doing the job of a DHCP server, which we'll see in our labs, how we can make a router to do the job of a DHCP. Or even it can be a multi-layer switch as well. So if it is an L3 switch, you can also use the L3 switch to do the job of a DHCP. Like especially when you are doing the configuration of VLANs and other things, it's important that, if you don't want to have a dedicated DHCP server, you can make a network switch. In some advanced switches like L3 switches support that. Like a triple example, in the production network, you have multiple VLANs. Like a simple example will be you have multiple VLANs in your network, and you want this particular switch to be the DHCP server, assigning the IP address to all the VLANs for each and every subnet, like separate DHCP. They should get the IP from the pool. We'll see this verification as well. Now, the third device, you can have a dedicated server. Now, again, most of the production networks, you will have a dedicated Windows machine, like using the Windows Server operating system, which has one of the service called DHCP. You can enable the service and you can configure the pool and everything. You can do it on either a Windows machine or the Linux servers, which is one of the most common way you do in the production networks, in a bigger network, especially to manage a very large organization where you need a dedicated servers for that. Okay, so this server can be the server which is providing the IP address to all the clients, or even most of the firewalls also support. Means if you're using any firewall as well, this can also act as a DHCP server. Now, I'm not saying you will be enabling DHCP in all the devices. Typically, you can either enable on a router or on a switch, or you can have a dedicated server or a firewall. It totally depends upon the network requirements. Okay. So maybe in some organizations, you just have the firewall, which will do the routing as well as doing the firewall job. And additionally, you want to enable the firewall to also do the uh, DHCP, like typically a FortiGate firewall or Cisco ASA firewalls. They do support the DHCP services. Means you don't need to or have a dedicated router to do that, or dedicated DHCP server. That's not mandatory. And of course, the best example, you also have a Wi-Fi routers. Like mostly this is more applicable in your home connections. In the home connections, we do have the Wi-Fi router, which is offering you the DHCP services, like a Wi-Fi router in your home connection or in a coffee shop, or it can be a very small network. That can be an example as well. So these are the typical devices where you can enable the DHCP service. So in our scenarios, initially we'll see how we can make a router to do the job of a DHCP, as well as the network switch, like L3 switch can do the job of a DHCP. Okay. Now the remaining devices are typically the end devices. Like all these devices, they will be the clients where they will be sending out a request to the DHCP server and getting the IP address. And whoever is the DHCP server, they can request. Okay. Even you can make this router as a client, switch as a client, also that is possible. Okay. So this is something we need to understand the next part, like supported devices and which device you can enable as a DHCP server.